flows back and forth. If you give something your attention, you help it to materialize better on the planet just by looking at it. So every time they say, well, look, we're going to take one of your children, we're going to brutalize them, then we give energy and power to the same entity that we're sending our disgust, hate, hurt, and anger at. We give energy to it. So it's time for us to start looking at one another, start locking arms and locking hands with one another and saying, let's give each other that same energy. Let's build one another up so that we can create something that's formidable. So the next time someone thinks about putting their hands on one of our children, they say, you know what, let's think about this, because these are people of retaliation. For some reason, every time we touch them, we crumble. Our elders get sick. Something happens to our people. Our businesses fail, not just because of economic boycott, but we recognize now these people have finally tapped into the power relationship that exists within their spirituality, not just the master-slave relationship. So that would be my take on that. Yeah. And
you know what? Wow. It's so refreshing because it's a point of view that its time has come. This is the 21st century. And we've got to close down all those channels towards the violence and the greed and the negativity of the 20th century man that was unevolved. We now should be evolved and elevated in our spirits to know that Ifa is about good character, it's about walking with, your mind open to the spirit of good for everybody. And not just for yourself. And I think that, because many of the, people from my generation that are involved in Ifa and a little older and much older, they come out of the generations that are still very much impacted by post-traumatic slave syndrome. And that the shadows still follow us into our traditions, even into the religious halls of the Christianity. You see people that are petty, that, do a lot of gossiping, carry on little, negative things.
Just doing some work, having some conversation with the ego. And one of the things that's very key in this time for us in terms of us communicating with the ancestors is finally graduating to more effective communication. Okay, it's kind of like, when you're a child, or when you have a child even, and they seek to communicate with you, you learn their language. You learn their language, and you're able to share ideas with them and convey ideas with them in the simplistic manner in which they're able to interpret and understand them. But then as they grow and they mature, you're able to have another level of conversation with them. And at some point you may even have, even though you recognize this is my child, you're able to have really a peer-to-peer conversation with them. One of the things that the Egun is really stressing at this time is learning how to properly speak to them. Okay? There are certain things that will bring them to call. For instance, I can speak to my elders all day. Let's say, I take my grandfather. Now, my grandfather loves James Brown. He thinks James Brown is responsible for all the black unity that actually exists on the planet currently. He's got a whole theory behind it. So I could talk to him all day, but if I throw on some James Brown, if I throw on some vinyl, if I throw on a James Brown record, I have my grandfather's ear for the rest of the day, because I'm communicating with him in a form that charges his spirit, okay, as opposed to getting him to understand what I'm speaking about. Okay, so one of the key things now is really growing up with our communication. If we understand the sacred Odu, which is the second Odu in the order of the Odu Ifa, is Oyeku Meji. And Oyeku Meji means the owner, the spirit, or the science of death. So when we're speaking about death, we're obviously speaking about transformation, but it's a completely feminine and contractive Odu, represented by not only water, but also the earth itself, Oyekumeji. Okay, but when you're dealing with that, you're dealing with water energy or earth energy. You're dealing with cool, negating energies. So once the ancestors go into that space, and in most instances, when they return, they come from that space, we have to look at the polar complement that can be used to charge them back up. The polar complement would be wind and fire. Okay, that would be the polar complement. So one of the things that they kept kind of sharing with me was the syntax of ancestral communication. And they kept saying to me that fire, where there's wind, and obviously there's fire, because that drum is held, especially the men who play, they hold that drum while they're standing. They stand in a horse position, and the drum is positioned right on top of the genitals. Okay, right on top of the genitals. There are sisters who play drum, but the drum they usually play is called the dun-dun, or the dun-dun, right? And the dun-dun is a deep, that's that bass bottom sound, and that sound actually came from when the sisters in the village used to grind mill, and they would do it around the same time, and they would do it in rhythm. So you would hear that they had these big, it almost looked like humongous mortar and pestles, which is basically what it was, but they were big enough so that they can stand and do it and strap their babies to their back. And you would hear it go, doom, 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 and you'd hear that reverberate throughout the village, but all the sisters would be doing it together. That was that bass, low-end, melanated rhythm that the sisters would keep, that timing, so that the brothers could come on top of it with the djembe. Now, all of this is earth energy. This is all earth energy. This is very similar to what Sammy Davis Jr. and the Hines brothers used to do for us. Okay? What they used to do for us was a thing that was called hoofing. They would tap dance. And that hoofing and that tap dancing, that sound was waking up the spiritual energy of the earth. That was Iwapwele, or what some would call raising the kundalini of the earth vibration. So that was a very spiritual thing that Sammy Davis Jr. used to do. And remember also, he was a Hebrew, or he acknowledged the fact that blacks are Hebrews. Okay? Right. So it goes back again to that ancestral vibration. So am I telling everyone the ancestors are saying learn Hebrew in order to communicate with them? Certainly. I'm saying that, but I'm also saying that start getting into your fire meditations, okay, and start understanding the nature of fire, and then you'll understand how ancestors are going to respond to that's occurred on the planet, which is what we were speaking about earlier. Even when you read the Bible, it speaks about, I will not send a flood again, but I'm going to come back this time in fire. Okay, fire is a purifying energy. So it goes similar to what we were speaking about earlier. We're not coming back this time. There is a human story that's happening when these things are going on, but they also are here to herald change in spiritual events. Okay, there was a time that calling yourself a thug, even if you were a tough guy, saying that you were a thug just didn't really make sense, because it just, when I was coming up, you could be tough. You could even be a street kid. You could be a stick-up kid, but you also had to have something else going for you in order just to get girls. You could be a stick-up kid, but you better be good at football or have a job or something like that, even if you're what we call them B-boys. You might have been a B-boy, but you had to have something else. Now you can just be a thug. You don't have to have anything going on for you. But that represents that thuggy energy that has reincarnated back on the planet. That's that fiery red energy. And I'm not telling people to align themselves with the thugs, but what I'm saying is that recognize the spiritual story when it's coming forth, and you lead the charge. Don't sit back and observe it. They send us these signs ahead of time so we can start guiding the energy and helping it to get where it's supposed to go. That's what the Egun are telling us for 2014.
Ashe. That is very true. So in terms of like some protections and you know, because fire meditation can be very, you know, really, if you haven't gone that path, you know, it could be a little uncontrollable, maybe even not discernible. You know, are there any protections that we should look towards? You know, maybe keeping a cool glass of water nearby, or you know, some ice.
Right. See, well, we're in an era now where there are, okay, for instance, we have like, you know, a lot of occult information. I will call it occult or New Age, quote unquote, because we know there's no such thing as that, but we'll call it New Age for now. Material and information started to come out around 2006, 2005, right? And that's when we had the introduction of like movies like The Secret. And then once that came out, there was like a windfall of these law of attraction, name it and claim it, the abundance movement, so forth and so on. And one of the reasons that all of that information came out and gave you some step-by-steps in manifesting abundance and bliss and all these other great things in your life is because that we're not in an era where that stuff works anymore. But you see, okay, so, you know, I had a client, not a client, it was a friend of mine some years ago who I was introducing to the sciences, a sister, and you know, she was coming out of the Christian paradigm, and she was still in it. She wasn't interested in leaving, but she just recognized that there's more than what I've been learning. There's more out there. Okay. And she had told me that she didn't like looking in the mirror for too long. And I said, why not? She said, well, haven't you ever looked in the mirror and you look in your own eyes and it just, isn't it kind of scary to you? And I was like, well, explain more. She said, I see something sometimes. Sometimes I see something moving in there, and it's so frightening. I just have to get away from the mirror. So, you know, that fear of self. And that's when we go to the Orisha Shango. See, Shango's arrogance and cockiness that we talk about all the time, what that really is Shango represents that moment that we come into our life path where we're not afraid of our own power. We say, yeah, I got this. I got this. I'm not afraid. I'm a powerful magician, or I'm a powerful owl, and my magic works. And that's it. There's no second guessing it. That's the energy of Shango. I'm not afraid of my power. That's why he's made it to Oya. Oya deals with the fear of transformation because she deals with the Egun, where we still have that fear. So when you have that fear, that's when you pull Shango closer to you and say, nope, I got this. I'm not afraid of myself. So when you're dealing with fire meditation, you got to understand that all you're doing is looking at a mirror of the fire that's inside of your body already. You're not pulling something external inside. You're not conjuring or anything like that. You're looking at yourself. And what you're looking at is the ancestral rumblings that are inside of you. It's very similar to heart attacks, right? A lot of people, they die of heart attacks, but they're not really dying of the heart attack. There's two reasons why people die when they have heart attacks. Is because they become dehydrated, number one, and number two is because of high blood pressure. But when you really look at that, what's happening is that there's an alchemical process that's occurring inside of the blood. And that alchemical process, that transformation, causes the body to heat up. Ashe is hot. Ashe is not a cold energy. You know, if anybody's ever worked in or even been at a bembe, and you touch someone who's been dancing, or even some of their sweater drop on you, you feel like somebody just dropped acid on you.
That's
you know,
true.
I've been in, you've probably experienced it, Iya. You know, I've been in situations before where I'm doing work, and some of the ebo falls on me, some of the ashe from the ebo, and I get blisters, like I just got burnt, you know, because that ashe energy is hot. Okay, so
that would be great.
what you're really
about
doing
11
is
minutes.
connecting with the ashe. Mm-hmm. Okay. The Odu for the next 7 days will be the Odu of Osa Ofun or Osafun. Very interesting. Again, we're talking about the Egun. Osa is the patron Odu or Osameji of Oya. Okay? And, of course, we know when we're dealing with Osa, the word itself relates itself to the English word tide, like the tide of the ocean's tide or the sea tide. Okay? So we're dealing with that aspect of rhythm. Okay? Earth rhythm. The earth rhythm is evidenced by the water's tide, how it pulls back and forth, right? And then we have Ofun. Ofun relates us to Obatala, very similar to the word Efun, which you know is that white chalk that we use for various purposes, right? So when you're dealing with the energy of Osafun, you're dealing with allowing things to let go and release in order for death to occur, okay? Because the symbol for Ofun is an egg, is the egg, okay? Now the egg represents birth and life all in one place. Okay, it's rebirth, but it's also death that's happening in one place, and it's the decompiling of things. It's the breaking down of things, but at the same time allowing things to recompile. So it's a decompiling and a recompiling. So again, Ofun usually comes up when we're coming to the end of a relationship or the end of a business situation, so forth and so on. And Osa represents itself to us as our ability to let go, our ability to not take life so seriously, because Oya is the wind of changes, the winds of change. Okay, you hold on to something too much, that hurricane's going to come blow it away anyway. This is really speaking of is letting go of fears. Okay, now everybody knows what their fears are. We don't have the same ones. Okay, everyone has different ones. And you know that the things that are in your path, the ajogon, or the obstacles, those fears that are in your path that are currently blocking your ability to break out of the egg. Now, you can be someone's omelet, or you can be that phoenix that arises from the ashes, but coming first from that cosmic egg. Okay? So really what you want to do in this season to give honor and tribute to the energy of Osha Fun, my suggestion as far as ritual is a 21 egg cleanse ritual. Get yourself 21 eggs, palm oil, and Efun.
And we have
you want Efun, not cascarilla.
Fear is the dominant thing, and there's nothing to be afraid of, because the will of whomever you serve will serve you.
Mm.
And that's whether you call it internal or external.
Mm-hmm.
This is the time that it really does work for us. But that is a powerful Odu, and I definitely see doing that, and I appreciate you coming forward with that information for the listeners to be able to go and do something to work on their individual things and carry a protection for themselves. So that's a blessing. I hope everybody takes advantage of it, because you're blessing the airwaves. I definitely am really enjoying talking to you, and I'd like to really set up a kind of a thing where we do it maybe not every week, but maybe monthly. Come on and we talk about some relevant things, because you have given so many excellent tools, spiritual tools to use tonight, that listeners that are connected to African spirituality, just connected to any spirituality, can really elevate themselves. And that's what the Hour of Power is about. It's not about any one particular, truth in terms of spiritual and religious truth. It's really the best of all things, and one of the problems that started is that people want to connect to their ancestors, but they're so afraid. But we don't have time to go into that, and that's what I want to talk about, getting past the fears and what some of the things you can do. But we have 3 minutes, and I want you to share your programs and how people can contact you. because, you know, if people learned, there wouldn't be fears. You know, you would get it.
Right.
You know,
right.
Because what you're telling me, it took me many years to, tonight, what you're telling us, it took me many years to understand and even to process it.
Right.
So we can't expect people to just initiate it.
No, I'm listening, Iya. I'm sorry. I'm listening.
Oh, no, I'm finished. I was talking about the people that got initiated.
It's definitely, we speak about community, any
in our lives,
calculation that you've heard.
The example for the world to look toward. We thank you for your guidance, and so it is. Ashe. And I just want to say that, when you look outside, the sun shines on all people. The rain pours on all people. Night falls on all people. And as the day rises, there's a change, because the 20th century was the last century burdened the spirit of Mother Earth. The limitations and ignorance of earlier man allowed the spirit of greed to claim dominion and ownership over Mother Earth. Greedy men and greedy women ran amok with ravenous abuses, domination, losses, diseases of the mind, body, and spirit. The 21st century is the century that brought true freedom to all people. We must acknowledge the divinity of the female, the feminine divinity, not female, but feminine divinity, that we see in each other, and stop pettiness of fighting for small things in a big world. Ashe. So I want to just remind you to open the door of awareness to yourself. Oprah and the rest of the earth healers are providing the message of opening yourself up for correction and fixing. It's you. You got to look in the mirror at yourself. And again, I say our special guest tonight is Haru, and I am so excited for him to be on the show, and I give thanks to him. Last week, everything that he said was such a blessing, because, for myself, I wasn't thinking that my own relationship would go through an eye-opener in which I decide whether to continue or to end it. And, it actually was kind of weak. So I give thanks to you, Haru, because that was powerful, for that old dude to come right square and look me in the face.
Well, you're welcome, Iya. I don't know if that was the bringing me in, but I give thanks to Arumi like one way. They look horrible.
I do.
It's happening. That's happening. The seals are going. The dolphins, they're killing the mermaids out of the water because they've been finding them and killing them. The birds coming out of the sky, so forth and so on. But my human nature or my flesh nature will have a subjective or judgmental response to that. And then my soul, my Ori, says, okay, but if I can step outside of my human flesh for a moment and the human experience, what could this possibly mean in a grander scale? And especially if I know that there are institutions and entities that do function from that occult, or occult just meaning that which is hidden, that hidden and symbolic feminine aspect, are they possibly trying to send a message to my subconscious? Or are they possibly trying to make sure that they're always in my mind? Because as soon as we start getting on a nice groove where we're waking up and we're learning things and people are listening to these shows and they're on the social networks and sharing information, they go and kill one of our sons. Or they go and kill one of our daughters. And now all of a sudden our attention is shifted there as opposed to on our agenda. So, my initial, and I would say even my last reaction would be the ancestors are still in control, and I'm looking for the spiritual meaning and the spiritual message in these things that are occurring. as far as what needs to happen, I think it's a wake-up call for all of us who are in the spiritual community. We need to stop just sitting back and shaking our heads. But if we truly take issue with these things that are happening worldwide, then it's finally time for us to stop doing ebos and spells against one another and start directing them to the source of our anger and the source of our issues, as opposed to going to a babalawo or an awo every 5 minutes asking for a candle so you can get back at your ex-wife or your ex-husband. Maybe now it's time to go after these people who've been brutalizing our community and our loved ones for all these years, because we have so many people now who are invested in the spiritual community. That's a lot of ashe. You know, just if you look in the New York area, the East, or Miami, which is the mecca of a Orisha tradition, you got so many people that can come together and actually start affecting some real change towards these world events. And until they're ready to do that, you know, I'm just going to keep looking at the overall greater spiritual seed of what's being presented to us.
You know, that's very powerful. That's very powerful what you said. And, you know, it's very sad that, excuse me, many people will not understand that their role is not to get the spiritual tools to fight against each other as Ifa people or as spiritual people, but for us to take our spiritual tools and fight against those that would do harm to Mother Earth.
That's right. That's right. You know, and that's something, I mean, and I'm not going to presuppose that that's something that we only began to do when we came here to the continent, to North America. I certainly don't feel that that is true. You know, one of the ways that you can conquer a people is if you ensure and promote and amplify their divisions. But first, the division has to exist. So the whole idea of oppressors or intruders or invaders coming into the continent and dividing and conquer, you know, it's not really as accurate. There was already division, and that division was exploited, and then we were conquered after that. So we have the same thing that we're facing here. As you know, there are many sects, Ifa tradition here, North America, worldwide even, many sects of Orisha tradition. And there's a strong division that exists. Because of that division, there are many aspects, and these aspects work hand in hand. It's about cooperation. And in losing that, if you haven't really grasped the understanding of spiritual cooperation that must occur, then the reality is you have not even touched Ifa yet. What you're touching is an artificial spirit that is posing as Ifa. Because like you said, Ifa is about Iwa, or like we say, Iwa Rere. Iwa Rere is good character or gentle character. And when you speak about Mother Earth, you know, we have Iwa Ope Ile, where we also often say is Iwa Puele. But Iwa Puele is a shortened version of Iwa Ope Ile, which means I give reverence to the earth. Now, many people know that Iwa Puele, you can't go anywhere in the Ifa community. I hear every 5 minutes, Iwa Puele, Iwa Puele. You got to have Iwa Puele. So there's a constant reference back to the reverence that we're supposed to have for our source of physical life and sustenance. And if you don't have that, you don't have Ifa. Plain and simple. If you're working with the Babalawo and Iya Nifa, and that's your padrino or that's your madrino, and that consciousness is not there, you don't have a Babalawo. You don't have an Iya Nifa. You have someone who's serving an artificial spirit and has been hoodwinked. Because it's, you know, you can work with the Orisha because Orisha are more cosmic and earth energies. You can work with those energies and still have a strong measure of imbalance even, because you came into the world with those Orishas. You came in with your Ogun. You came in with your Shango. You came in with your Ochosi or Oko. You came into the world with those things. But Ifa is a transcendental state, just like Olorun. Olorun means owner of the skies. So when we speak about the sky, we're speaking about the transcendental nature of Olodumare. And Ifa, Obatala, and Orumila, that's transcendental nature. So you have to transcend human thought. So as soon as you transcend human thought, you transcend